It's just business, my boyfriend's sister said after stealing my dream job. I sent one email to expose the truth. 3 months later, she was sobbing at my door, begging. I never thought I'd be the type of person to refuse help to family, but after what my boyfriend's sister did, I can't bring myself to care anymore. The coldness I feel when I hear her name surprises even me sometimes. For 3 years, I built a life with Mark. 3 years of Sunday brunches, holiday gatherings, and creating what I thought would be my future family. I'm 30, established in my marketing career, and always prided myself on being the person who believed in second chances. Until Emma took away mine. Emma, even writing her name makes my fingers hesitate over the keyboard. Mark's older sister, 34, working in the same industry as me but always a step behind. I should have recognized the warning signs from our first meeting, the way her smile never reached her eyes when Mark introduced us, how she'd casually mention my age whenever my accomplishments came up. Wow, a senior position already? At your age, that's impressive. The pause before impressive lasted just long enough to feel deliberate. I brushed these moments aside, chalked them up to normal family dynamics, to the awkwardness of integrating into someone else's established relationships. Mark always defended her. That's just Emma being Emma, she doesn't mean anything by it. I wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. Looking back, I was naive to think we could ever be friends. The pattern continued for years. Emma's backhanded compliments at family dinners, the way she'd interrupt me during professional conversations to clarify points I was making, her constant need to one-up every story I shared, all while maintaining the veneer of sisterly affection that fooled everyone except me. We're practically sisters, she'd say, arm draped across my shoulders whenever Mark was watching. The weight of her arm felt like a chain. I tolerated it all for Mark's sake. He loved his sister, believed in her fundamental goodness in a way that spoke to his own character. I didn't want to be the girlfriend who came between siblings, so I smiled, nodded, retreated when necessary, built walls around the parts of myself I didn't want her to touch. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. Martinson & Reed was the kind of marketing firm people in our industry spoke about in reverent tones. Industry leaders, innovators, the place where careers were made. When a senior position opened up, director of digital strategy, I knew it was my shot. The role represented everything I'd worked toward: creative control, a 40% salary increase, a team to mentor, and projects with global reach. My hands trembled as I submitted my application. For 3 weeks, I obsessed over every word in my portfolio. When the email arrived requesting an interview, I nearly cried. I only told Mark, sworn to secrecy until I knew more. This is it, I whispered to him that night, our legs tangled together in bed. This could change everything for us. He squeezed my hand, pride radiating from him in waves. They'd be crazy not to hire you. I should have known better than to trust his discretion. 3 days later, at his parents' house for dinner, Emma cornered me in the kitchen. Mark told me about Martinson & Reed, she said, voice lowered conspiratorially. That's a major opportunity. When's the interview? The familiar tightness returned to my chest. Mark stood in the doorway, mouthing sorry with a sheepish smile. I forced pleasantness into my voice as I answered her questions, each response measured carefully. Emma seemed genuinely interested, even offering advice about the firm's culture. I know someone who worked with their creative director, she said. I could ask them about what the team is looking for if you want. For one foolish moment, I believed we'd turned a corner, that maybe, finally, we could support each other as professionals, as family. The night before my interview, I was reviewing my presentation one last time when an email notification appeared. Unknown sender. Subject line, regarding your Martinson & Reed interview. My stomach dropped. Ice spread through my veins as I opened the message. Screenshots, Emma's email to Gerald Whitman, hearing director at Martinson & Reed, my name in the subject line. Concerns about her professional conduct, has a history of taking credit for team efforts, volatile when receiving criticism, left her previous position under questionable circumstances. Each lie more calculated than the last, each one crafted to exploit the precise concerns that would matter to a company like Martinson & Reed. I couldn't breathe. The room spun around me. Betrayal has a physical weight, it settles in your chest, presses against your lungs until even air becomes a struggle. I called Mark, barely able to form words. He came over immediately, his face draining of color as I showed him the email. There has to be some explanation, he kept saying. Emma wouldn't do this, but she had. The evidence was right there, undeniable. The interview the next day was a disaster. The warmth I'd heard in Gerald's voice during our phone screening had evaporated. His questions seemed designed to trip me up, to confirm whatever suspicions Emma had planted. I left the building knowing I'd never work there. 2 days later, the rejection arrived. The position is no longer available. 1 week after that, Emma announced her new job at a family dinner, Director of Digital Strategy at Martinson & Reed. It all happened so fast, she gushed, avoiding my eyes. They reached out to me, actually. The table erupted in congratulations, Mark's parents beaming with pride, Mark himself looking trapped between happiness for his sister and horror at what it meant. When I confronted her afterward, Emma's performance dropped away. It's just business, she said with a shrug. You're too young to appreciate this opportunity anyway. You wouldn't have gotten it even without my email. I felt a cold fury settle in my chest, a clarity I'd never experienced before. Mark and I fought that night, our first real argument in 3 years. She's always been competitive, he said, as if that explained away the deliberate sabotage. Can't you be the bigger person for me, for family peace? I stared at him, this man I thought I knew. She stole more than a job from me, I said quietly. She stole my reputation, my integrity. He had no answer for that. In the weeks that followed, I retreated from Mark's family, declined invitations, made myself scarce, not out of pettiness but self-preservation. I needed space to think, to plan, to decide who I wanted to be in response to this betrayal. I could have exploded, could have exposed Emma to the entire family, could have made Mark choose sides definitively. Instead, I got methodical. First, I researched Emma's professional background, her resume, her social media history, her former colleagues. I worked carefully, meticulously, building a complete picture of her career. Patterns emerged quickly. Emma had claimed credit for campaigns she hadn't led, had exaggerated her role in successful projects, had misrepresented her qualifications on her LinkedIn profile, had violated her former company's social media policies repeatedly. I documented everything, saved emails, recorded a conversation where she openly admitted to sabotaging my interview, created a timeline of her professional misrepresentations, not out of vindictiveness but insurance, protection against whatever she might try next. I set clear boundaries with Mark. I will be civil to your sister at family events, I told him, but don't ask me to pretend everything is okay for your comfort. Don't ask me to trust her again. He agreed, reluctantly. I saw the hope in his eyes that time would heal this wound, that I would eventually let it go. He didn't understand that some betrayals change you permanently. 6 months passed. I rebuilt myself professionally, took on freelance projects, expanded my network carefully, always aware that Emma now had connections that could hurt me again. Then the text started. Hey, quick question about the Henderson Project approach. Do you have experience with integrated AR campaigns? Could use your insight, having some team challenges. Any advice? Each message more desperate than the last, each one carefully ignored. Mark mentioned casually that Emma was struggling at Martinson & Reed, that the leadership team was more demanding than she expected, that the projects were more complex than she was used to. I nodded sympathetically while satisfaction bloomed inside me. The calls began next. Late-night, tear-filled conversations with Mark where Emma would happen to call, clearly distressed, his worried face as he muted the TV. I should take this, she's really going through it at work. Emma's carefully crafted facade began crumbling at family events, dark circles under her eyes, tense phone calls taken in corners, defensive responses when anyone asked about her job. She cornered me in the kitchen during a Sunday dinner, voice lowered to a desperate whisper. I need your help, please, I'm drowning there. I looked at her, this woman who had tried to destroy my career without a second thought. No, I said simply and walked away. Mark started pressuring me. She made a mistake. She's family. You're the only one who understands the kind of work she's doing. I held firm. My refusal wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries, self-respect. Then came the opportunity that tested everything. Blackwell Communications, even more prestigious than Martinson and Reed, posted a creative director position. My dream role. My application received an immediate response. The interviews went brilliantly until the final round. We've received some concerning information about your professional conduct, the hearing manager said carefully. Something about ethical issues at your previous position. My blood ran cold. Emma, again. But this time I was prepared. I had documentation, evidence of her previous sabotage, references ready to speak to my character and work ethic. The hearing manager listened, expression shifting from concern to understanding to something like admiration. Unfortunately, we're still going to have to go with another candidate, she said finally, but I appreciate your transparency. I'll keep your information on file. That night, alone in my apartment, something broke inside me. The careful control I'd maintained for months splintered. Tears came hot and furious, not just for this lost opportunity but for everything Emma had taken, my career momentum, my relationship peace, my trust in Mark's family. That's when I knew I couldn't just walk away anymore. She needed to learn actions have consequences. The email I crafted to Martinson and Reed was factual, professional, and devastating. No emotional appeals, no vindictive language, just evidence. Emma's resume falsifications, the recording of her admitting to sabotaging my interview, documentation of her misrepresenting her qualifications for the position. I addressed it to Gerald Whitman, copying HR and the legal department. Send, no going back now. I also reached out to my industry contacts, not to gossip but to professionally clear my name. I've recently become aware that there may be misconceptions about my work ethic and professional conduct circulating. I wanted to address this directly. The response was immediate and surprising. Colleagues who had experienced similar behavior from Emma, people who had wondered about her rapid promotion, support I hadn't expected. I even contacted the hearing manager at Blackwell, explaining the situation without asking for anything. Just clearing the air, maintaining my professional integrity. Emma's call came at 11:37 p.m. I watched my phone vibrate against the coffee table, her name flashing on the screen, then Mark's name, then her name again, then her parents'. I turned my phone off and went to bed. The next morning, 6 voicemails waited. Emma, hysterical, had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Mark, furious, demanding to know what I'd done. Emma's parents calling me vindictive and jealous. I listened to each message calmly, then I called Mark and asked him to come over. "You've gone too far," he said the moment he walked through the door. Her entire career could be ruined. I laid out everything for him, the original sabotage, the continued interference with my job prospects, the mounting evidence of Emma's professional misconduct. I made sure everything I shared was factual and documented, I explained. This wasn't about revenge, it was about professional integrity, about consequences. I watched the anger in his eyes fade to confusion, then shock, then a quiet sort of grief. "I had no idea she'd done all this," he finally said. "I knew about the first email, but this pattern?" "You didn't want to see it," I said gently. "She's your sister." 3 weeks later, Emma was terminated from Martinson and Reed following their internal investigation. I felt no joy at the news, just quiet relief that the truth had finally come to light. Mark's relationship with his sister became strained. He tried to mediate to help her understand the gravity of her actions, but Emma refused to accept responsibility. Instead, she blamed me for overreacting to normal industry competition. Family gatherings became tense affairs. Lines were drawn. Some supported Emma unconditionally, unable to believe she would do something so calculated. Others, having witnessed her behavior for years, found the revelations sadly believable. Mark struggled, caught between the sister he'd always protected and the truth he couldn't ignore. Then came the pounding on my apartment door at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Emma, eyes red-rimmed, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "You've made your point," she said when I opened the door. "You've won, now please help me fix this." Mark had been in the shower when she arrived. He emerged, towel around his waist, freezing when he saw his sister in our living room. "I've applied for 15 jobs," Emma continued, voice cracking. "No one will even interview me. My savings are running out. Please help me rebuild my reputation. Put in a good word, something." I looked at this woman who had tried to destroy everything I'd worked for, who had shown no remorse until consequences touched her own life. "No," I said simply. Her desperation turned to rage in an instant. "You vindictive bitch, you think you're so perfect? I'll make sure everyone knows what you did to me, how you set me up out of jealousy." Mark stepped forward, shock evident on his face. For the first time, he was seeing his sister clearly, the manipulation, the rage, the entitlement. "Emma, that's enough," he said quietly. "You need to leave." She turned to him, incredulous. "You're taking her side. I'm your sister, and she's the woman I love," he replied. "The woman you tried to destroy professionally, twice. Leave, Emma, we can talk when you're calm." After she left, Mark and I had the most honest conversation of our relationship, about family loyalty, about enabling behavior, about the future we wanted to build and what kind of family would be part of it. 2 weeks later, I received a call from Blackwell Communications. The creative director position had opened again. The candidate they'd selected had received another offer. Was I still interested? I accepted the position the next day. Emma found out, of course. Family gossip travels fast. The texts resumed, alternating between congratulations and thinly veiled requests for assistance. Could I put in a word for her, recommend her for an open position, help her update her portfolio? Each message left unanswered. Finally, she cornered me at Mark's parents' house during a birthday celebration, desperation evident in every line of her body. "I know I messed up," she whispered urgently. "I know that now, but you've proven your point. You're more successful. You won. Please help me rebuild my career." I studied her face, searching for genuine remorse, finding only self-interest. "You chose competition over family," I said finally. "I'm choosing peace over revenge. I won't help you, but I also won't stand in your way." I walked away, feeling lighter than I had in months. 3 months later, I'm thriving at Blackwell. My team is brilliant, the work challenging and fulfilling. Mark and I have moved past the crisis, our relationship stronger for having weathered the storm honestly. We're talking about marriage now, about the family we want to build, a family based on support rather than competition. Emma has taken an entry-level position at a small local agency. Starting over, we maintain minimal contact, the memory of her betrayal a wall between us that may never fully come down. I don't regret exposing the truth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else. It's refusing to let them destroy you. It's standing firmly in your own integrity while allowing natural consequences to unfold. I never wanted to win at someone else's expense, but I wasn't going to lose at my own.